direction. I think this image of a course or race to run is most helpful if we don't think of it as a competition against others, but a challenge for ourselves. There is a distance to go, and the only way to get to the end of the race is to begin the journey and to keep going. One way to see this course of study is very literally as a progression of the academic courses that are offered and information as a student is supposed to gain in them. We know that there are different stages in a course of study. The university curriculum is divided into different levels. Students who are starting the university typically start with 100-level courses, and students who are getting closer to graduating are usually taking 400-level courses. One approach to these stages of learning is just to see them as progression and information that must be memorized. You start with 100-level information and end with 400-level information. In this narrow sense, curriculum is information to learn progressively over a certain amount of time. A challenge with this approach is that at almost every stage we learn information and then forget. With this limited sense of what learning is, we may start to feel apathetic about both learning and our college curriculum. Why bother? We can look everything up online anyways. Why am I here? What is the point of college other than to get a piece of paper to get a job? A better and deeper way to think about learning and curriculum is taking on new mental models. If we just see learning as mastery of content rather than taking on new ways of thinking and acting, we risk the classic result reported in Ken Bain's book, What the Best College Teachers Do. Students in a physics class learn the information and pass the test. But at the end of the class, a post-test showed that their view of the world had not changed. They were still using mental models of physical reality that they had before the class. The information they had learned had not restructured their view of the physical world as taught by the principles of physics. It was as though they hadn't taken a class at all. They had learned in a narrow sense of gaining information, but not in a deeper sense of thinking differently, of taking on new mental models. This sense of learning as taking on new mental models follows an older sense of knowledge in which knowing isn't just memorizing information. There's a long tradition about learning that recognizes stages of progress in learning and mastery, stages in taking on a new way of being. In the ancient world, one became a disciple of a master. The biblical term for disciples in the Greek is mathetes, those who direct their minds to something. Learners or pupils, even apprentices. Disciples subject themselves to the authority of a master in order to learn and become like him. In the Middle Ages and early modern world, those who learn trades work through the stages of being an apprentice, a journeyman, and finally a master of a particular skill and body of knowledge. One became a master through practice, feedback, and progressive experience. We also see those stages in the tradition of the university, with degrees of bachelor's, master's, and doctor. This learning as becoming, stages in taking on a new way of being, happens intuitively as we grow up in families and cultures. We unconsciously take on ways of thinking and acting that shape the way we carry ourselves and the way we live in the world. We learn a language. We learn how to walk and talk, what to eat, what to do, what to value. We are raised with an invisible cultural curriculum. The curriculum of our upbringing is the sequenced experiences that create ways of thinking and acting that become habits. Pierre Bourdieu, a 20th century French social and cultural theorist, uses the term habitus to describe this invisible cultural curriculum. He emphasizes that knowing is not just facts, but that this practical knowledge entails an embodied disposition that we are not even aware of. It shapes how we are in the world. He uses the term learned ignorance to describe this practical understanding, a way of being that we absorb so unconsciously from our families and culture. Many of you are now or have lived in foreign cultures and face this daily as you try to understand and know cultural cues and meanings that natives of the culture don't even realize they know. They have this learned ignorance. Bourdieu explains that to seek this practical understanding, or to try to pick up a new culture from the outside, is to seek a theory which cannot be found through theoretical experience alone of what it is to be native, that is, to be in a relationship of learned ignorance, of immediate but unself-conscious understanding, which defines the practical relationship to the world. The invisible cultural curriculum of our childhood provides our individual learned ignorance. We are not born knowing a language or how to live as a native in a culture, but we learn it so quickly and so effortlessly that we are not conscious of having been taught. The invisible curriculum of childhood is implemented by parents and absorbed by children without much reflection. As small children, we are humble, meek, and teachable. We learn to take on, step by step, the habitus, the embodied disposition of our family and culture. Living here in Laie, I've come to appreciate the amazing way in which culture is taught and passed along at very early ages. Small children perform beautiful hula and Tahitian dancing, even fire knife. Small children display remarkable athleticism and are constantly playing and being reinforced and coached by parents and siblings. My parents didn't dance or have any interest in sports, and therefore I never received any of that coaching or encouragement. Physical grace and kinetic intelligence are not my family and cultural legacy. My parents were, however, constantly reading and talking about ideas. My mother read to us before we could read. We learned to sit, we learned to pay attention. My mom took us to the local library weekly, and we came home with stacks of books that piled up in our living room. My dad sat with us at the breakfast table, and we talked about the issues of the day we were reading about in the Washington Post. We sat at the dinner table and analyzed what we were learning in school and church, and any other issues on our minds. It's not surprising that all three of us children ended up in academia as a profession. We unconsciously absorbed what they cared about, and we unconsciously mastered the skills they had. Outside of family setting, we have to be more intentional about the experiences that sequence learning. As teachers and learners, we are trying to supplement the learning that came so easily as little children. We are still learning, we are still taking on a new way of being, but it just gets harder. We get set in our ways. It is harder to do new things and to see things differently. My mother had a beautiful house full of pictures, plants, music, books, and games. She took every occasion to take us to enjoy nature and art and music and museums in the Washington, D.C. area where we lived. She didn't, however, have a great love of housework. The mending pile sat there. She made wonderful meals and kept us clean and healthy, but she didn't insist that we spend hours cleaning the house every week. My memories of cleaning the house are always tied to when people were coming over to visit. And so even today, I know I should do more to clean my house on a regular basis, but it is a struggle. If people aren't coming over to visit, it doesn't seem like a priority. In this case, the embodied disposition or habitus of my childhood is something that I need to keep repenting of. Now, it's not that mediocre house cleaning is a sin, I hope, but here I'm using repent in the sense of changing the way we think and feel and act. Formal learning and curriculum follows the experiences of childhood to sequence experiences to help us change the way we think and feel and act. But it must be much more intentional. From a gospel point of view, we can see why we talk about being born again and becoming as little children. We can see how learning is repenting. In the Greek, literally thinking and feeling differently. We can see how curriculum is the way, the path of becoming. And it's important to stress, however, that learning itself is a neutral activity. We are always learning, we are always becoming. The question becomes, who are we learning from and what are we becoming? we don't realize that we are always in the process of learning and becoming, we can start unconsciously adopting ways of thinking and acting, and find ourselves becoming something we don't want to become. The Lord exhorts parents to bring up their children in light and truth, but we can also be brought up in darkness and deception. The most obvious example is people in prisons who are released, but then come out with the equivalent of an advanced degree in crime. But learning paths of darkness and deception can be so much more subtle and insidious. Everything we read, everything we watch, everything we listen to is teaching us. Without realizing it, we can be taught attitudes and ways of living that are hurtful and ungodly. We can take on practices that one day we will be ashamed of and regret. The idea of curriculum is a tool to help us think about learning and becoming. The more we are intentional about what we are learning, the safer we will be from slipping into attitudes and behaviors that we will regret and then find we need to unlearn and change from. Unlearning attitudes and habits, ways of being, is possible, but can be very, very hard. We can use this perspective about learning as becoming to think about the curriculum of our university, the curriculum of the church, and the curriculum of life. There are some patterns we want to look for with each of these subjects. What knowledge is being sequenced? What is the aim of the sequenced experiences? What are we supposed to become? And who is developing those experiences? Let's first look at the curriculum of the university. I'll divide this into three parts: general education, religious education, and major education. In each of these, we'll see how experiences, both over many semesters and within the design of each course, are sequenced to help you take on new ways of thinking and acting. First, general education. There is content, required curriculum in a narrow sense: English, math, foreign language, science, breadth of knowledge. But really, the goal is studying and engaging to learn to think and act in new ways. Taking on a way of being of disciple leaders, increasing our ability to inquire, analyze, communicate, and the disposition to act with integrity, stewardship, and service. We talk about these as institutional learning outcomes and try to make sure we are succeeding in helping you learn them. It is important to us that you are learning to think critically, communicate effectively in written and oral form, that you are literate and discerning with information, and have quantitative reasoning skills. We want you to have skills to succeed and to serve. General education coursework is designed to help you become even more effective thinkers and to have a deeper disposition to live with integrity, stewardship, and service. We want to help you become generally educated, broadly educated Latter-day Saints. Second, religious education. Again, there is content. The required curriculum in a narrow sense: Old Testament, New Testament, Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants. But really, the goal is studying and engaging to learn to think and act in new ways. The goal of the curriculum is helping you take on a new way of being as an even more effective disciple of Christ and teacher and leader. As a department, like all departments, we have program learning outcomes that help us focus on the skills you will need in your future discipleship and leadership in the church. Some of these outcomes tie into the institutional learning outcomes of inquiry, analysis, communication, integrity, stewardship, and service, but some are particular to the mission of religious education and its role in helping you prepare for lives of church service. Religious education is designed to help you have experiences of study, analysis, and application that increase your abilities to live and teach the gospel. We want to help you become university-educated and faithful Latter-day Saints. Finally, major education. Here also there is content, the required curriculum in the narrow sense, classes you must take and a sequence in which you must take them. But this curriculum is designed as taking on a way of being of a particular discipline. The Experiences in coursework, ordered by prerequisites, ensure the sequential nature of progress. Through this curriculum, you are moving towards knowledge, skills, and disposition of various fields, learning to think and act in new ways, becoming a musician, becoming an historian, becoming a social worker, becoming a business professional, becoming an artist, becoming an information technology professional, becoming a scientist, becoming a mathematician or psychologist. I know I'm leaving out fields, but you get the general sense. The academic disciplines are discipline-specific ways of knowing, experiencing, and being in the world. I'll give one example of this disciplinary focus with the program learning outcomes of the history department, a department I taught with as well as religious education. Some of these outcomes tie into the institutional learning outcomes of inquiry, analysis, communication, integrity, stewardship, and service. But some are particular to the discipline of history and its role in helping prepare history students for their future lives of learning and service. History coursework is designed to help students have experiences in reading, analysis, research, and writing to help them think and act like historians. In all these cases, curriculum is designed by faculty that are specialists and know what you need to know and experience to take on the attributes of an educated person, both generally, but also in their specific fields. Of course, you can receive this curriculum for general and major education at many universities, but the Lord also warns us to trust no man to be our teacher unless he, quote, be a man of God, walking in his ways and keeping his commandments, end quote. This is not to say that we can't learn information from worldly people, but it expresses a deeper sense that we are learning from who people are, from how they live. As we are studying with them, we are being influenced by them to become more as they are. Wherever we study, we have to be careful who we are learning from, who we are imitating and becoming like, without even realizing it. This is why the hiring of those who teach at church universities is carefully supervised by the church leadership. We are not perfect, and the curriculum we develop and teach is not perfect. We don't always all agree on every particular of what you need and how to sequence your experiences at the university to help you become what you need to be. Curriculum is adjusted over time, and there is a long-term assessment process to help us as we try to keep working through these issues, to see if what we're having you do as we sequence your learning experiences is helping you become what you need to become. But as we work through curriculum development as a university and department by department, you can have confidence that it is a curriculum and learning process designed and shared by faculty that care about your eternal success. Faculty who have developed skills and knowledge and disposition as educated Latter-day Saints, and who want to help you develop those same attributes and knowledge. We have a shared vision of your potential and value as individuals and as servants in the Lord's kingdom. To this point, I've discussed the curriculum others develop for you during your time at the university, but I want to stress that curriculum is not a passive experience. These experiences with university curriculum help you develop the habit of curriculum for yourself, the habit of sequencing experiences to learn and become what you want to become. We become what we do, and we can decide what we do. The habit of curriculum, the habit of intentionally sequencing our own choices and actions can apply to how you sequence the events of the day. We call this time management. Or how you make long-term plans to sequence experiences over many years to gain new skills and knowledge. With this practice in thinking about curriculum, let's apply the concept of curriculum as the sequencing of learning and becoming to the curriculum of the church. Again, we want to look for patterns. What knowledge is being sequenced? What is the aim of the sequenced experiences? What are we supposed to become? Who is developing those experiences? Yes, there is content, required curriculum in the narrow sense, manuals and lessons and readings for primary, seminary, Sunday school, Relief Society, priesthood classes. But really, the goal is studying and engaging to learn to think and act in new ways. This sequenced learning, the deeper sense of curriculum and learning, is not just information we learn in church classes, the information that goes through the curriculum committee in Salt Lake City and into the Sunday school, Relief Society, and priesthood manuals. The entire organization of the church is the Lord's curriculum. He knows us, and He knows what we need to become. And so He has sequenced our life experiences in the church to help us grow and become what we need to become. For all, there is a sequence or path of covenants and ordinances that help us grow and become like Christ. Baptism, confirmation, receiving the endowment, being sealed. For all, there is the path of daily living of our covenants through lives of service and obedience, as well as weekly renewing our covenants to help us be forgiven and keep moving forward on the path. In addition to this general, foundational discipleship, the Lord has also designed paths that are tailored to us as women and men. For girls and women, primary, young women experiences, Relief Society experiences. For boys and men, primary, Aaronic priesthood experiences, Melchizedek priesthood experiences. Some people look at the curriculum of the church, the sequenced growth and learning experiences for men and women, and see antiquated, human, patriarchal social structures. But with a personal witness that Christ has restored His church in the latter days, we can have confidence that He has organized it in a way to help us grow and become what we need to become. When we have the assurance that He is actively guiding those who are called to preside, and that they are called by Him, we can have confidence in the order and organization of the church. When we have trust that He wants us all to receive His fullness, and that all the blessings and power to become like Him are available to all through the covenants and ordinances of the priesthood, then it will not worry us when the Lord's curriculum involves men and not women being ordained to priesthood offices. When we have confidence in who is developing the curriculum, we know that the aim of these sequenced experiences is our exaltation as husbands and wives, growing and serving together through eternity. With this perspective, we can see the curriculum of church organization as inspired by a loving Father in heaven who knows the eternal nature of men and women and wants us all to grow into our full potential. Sister Julie B. Beck, a recent General President of the Relief Society, has made this observation about the learning and becoming that Relief Society is designed to help women develop. Through Relief Society, we practice being disciples of Christ. We learn what He would have us learn. We do what He would have us do, and we become what He would have us become. Relief Society prepares women for the blessings of eternal life by helping them increase their faith and personal righteousness, strengthen their homes, and help those in need. Relief Society is organized as a sisterhood under the authority of the priesthood and after the pattern of the priesthood to help the daughters of God more fully become disciples of Christ. It and all the service that women give in the church is part of a curriculum of sequenced experiences that are tailored to help them take on the divine nature. The Lord, in His wisdom, has ordained men to priesthood offices and thereby organized them into quorums. A classic explanation of a quorum was given by Elder Stephen L. Richards of the Quorum of 12 in 1938. A quorum is three things. First, a class. Second, a fraternity or brotherhood. And third, a service unit. The Lord has organized priesthood quorums and priesthood responsibilities to help the sons of God more fully become disciples of Christ. These quorums and all the service that men give in the church are part of a curriculum of sequenced experiences that are tailored to help them take on the divine nature. The organization of the church, giving different assignments to different people, is part of the Lord's curriculum. In Ephesians chapter 4, Paul teaches, And he gave some apostles, and some prophets, and some evangelists, and some pastors and teachers, for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ, till we all come in the unity of the faith, and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. The teachings and revelation that come through prophets and apostles are not to lift them up, but to lift us all up to the knowledge of the Son of God, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Through the prophets, we have the scriptures. Through the prophetic invitation to study the scriptures daily, especially the Book of Mormon, the Lord is giving us a curriculum to become like him. Likewise, through prophets, we have temple ordinances. And through the prophetic invitation to attend the temple as often as possible, the Lord is further establishing our education for eternity. These ordinances are an essential part of our curriculum in taking on godly ways of thinking and acting. Through these, we are being shown the way, the race to run. We are being invited to take upon ourselves a new way of being, to take upon ourselves the name and nature of Christ, to receive the fullness of the measure of the stature of Christ, as we gradually develop the ways of being that we symbolically embody in the ordinances. The way of sanctification is long. We need to keep returning to the curriculum of the temple. In the temple, we ritually participate in a sacred sequence of experiences that points the way we need to live as we move through this race or journey of life. Through our participation in these sequenced experiences, we learn to become obedient, chaste, willing to sacrifice and consecrate ourselves. The organization and the ordinances of the church provide us with a path to follow, the race to run, our curriculum to prepare for eternity. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Lastly, I want to apply this pattern of thinking about curriculum to the curriculum of life. Many people see in life randomness and meaninglessness. Things happen and it is hard to see why or what to make of it. Believing in a loving Father in heaven that has a plan for us gives us confidence that we've been sent down to earth to develop new ways of thinking and feeling and acting. Faith in God allows us to see the curriculum of life. Again, we want to look for patterns. What knowledge is being sequenced? What is the aim of the sequenced experiences? What are we supposed to become? Who is developing those experiences? Our life experiences are our individual curriculum, from a Father that knows each of us individually and wants each of us to develop and become like him. The knowledge that we are here on earth to gain is best understood not as facts or information, but taking on his nature, coming to know him as we become like him. In the intercessory prayer in John 17:3, Christ taught, and this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ whom thou hast sent. This is knowledge we gain over time, and is sequenced through the experiences that each of us go through. It is important to recognize that while God is using our life experiences as a chance to help us learn and grow, he does not cause everything to happen. People have agency, and there are conditions in mortality that are part